Hi, it's Sydney Jones, and this is my Module 6 design brief for the project in Module 9. Like y'all know, this assignment has 5 requirements, so I'm just gonna go through each of those. My project, I decided I'm gonna create a TV show that's specifically targeted towards teenagers / college-aged young adults. Now my project isn't gonna be an actual show that you can literally watch. It's just gonna be the pitch for the show. And that pitch is gonna include the plot, the characters, their character design, things of that sort. My project will consist of the fundamentals of producing a young adult television show. So like I said, the plot, the characters, their environment, and then how they interact with each other and the world around them. I plan on it being in a written format. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a PowerPoint or an essay or a blog post, but it's definitely gonna be written with visual components to further explain what I'm trying to say, because I am not really articulate. At the moment, I'm leaning more towards a PowerPoint presentation because I just feel like that format is well known and the audience will be able to comprehend it the best. For user experience, I am anticipating that it will be similar to when our class beta tested for Professor Paproth in Module 1. I don't think it's gonna be interactive though, but whoever is looking at Module 9, it'd be like you're scrolling through a PowerPoint. I feel as if this project needs to exist for me in order to showcase my ability to come up with an original idea for a television show. I'm a film major. What I'm gonna do as a career specifically is to not only write for the films and TV shows, like the scripts, but also conceptualize new ideas and produce new ideas for films and TV shows in the future. So that being said, I need to be able to create and cohesively present my ideas in depth to other people to where they can understand what I'm saying and they can fully grasp what I'm trying to convey to them. This project's audience would be television channels or streaming services that would possibly produce my show. I watch a lot of television and I noticed that I gravitate more towards shows about normal people living life. For example, shows like The Wonder Years, Moesha, Grownish, and my personal favorite, Degrassi. I know most of these shows are categorized as a sitcom, but for the ones that have the classification as a drama, I just feel as if too many of those episodes are just kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow, and it's just kind of pushed aside. So the only show that I really appreciate the timeline of the events that happened would be Skins UK. So for my show, I'm just going to be taking my favorite concepts from similar shows and create a real world drama. I don't know if that's a real term or if I just kind of made it up, but my definition for a real world drama would be like a scripted show, but it's real people going through real world things. So it's not going to be anything like Teen Wolf or The Vampire Diaries. I want to think about it more as The Wonder Years, but more real world dramatic, dealing with things that oh, your uncle got hit by a car, things of that sort. So for some examples of my favorite concepts and shows, in the freeform show Grownish, the main character, Zoe, tends to break the fourth wall, and she'll look at the camera and say her inner thoughts.
I think for a second that there was maybe a reason I didn't call out Esme.
Yeah, because you have a problem with undermining authority, any type of confrontation, and when it comes to your talent, you lack confidence.
Okay, all of that is true.
It's also reflective of Jim Halpert in The Office. Although this show isn't a drama, it's when he'll just kind of look at the camera in reaction of somebody else doing something ungodly. Or how in The Wonder Years, the show is solely focused on Kevin Arnold and his relationship with the people in his lives. It doesn't really dwell on the relationships between his friends, the relationships that his family has outside of him. It's solely focused on Kevin. I also like how we only have information that is provided to Kevin. If something happens that Kevin was not present for, we don't know unless he is told by somebody else. In many of the Degrassi storylines, the heavy subject matter, if any of you are familiar with the rapper Drake, he was in Degrassi, and his character Jimmy was a victim of gun violence, more specifically a school shooting, and he was deemed wheelchair Jimmy. Multiple girls in that show had either pregnancy scares or pregnancies or abortions. I know in the later season, suicide and self-harm were going to be talked about more, and also the LGBT community, which in the early 2000s was super taboo. I just like how those things are very real, and you would see that in an actual school, no matter where you go, whether it be Canada, the US, a public school, a private school. Now this is a little side note, but one of the things I don't like about how Degrassi handled that subject matter is many of the conflicts that the kids were faced with were just resolved way too quickly, or they weren't resolved at all. Many issues were handled within 2 or 3 episodes and then rarely brought up again. In the very first episode of the series, one of the main characters is actually exposed to a predator online, and then after the first episode it's just kind of ignored and swept under the rug, and she learns her lesson, but it's only a 1 episode type of deal. Like, no other actions were taken for her. It was just kind of like a 1 episode situation, and then they just kind of was like, okay, she learned her lesson, on to the next. So for my timeline, I noticed that there are 5 weeks in between today and the due date of Module 9. So going off of a week-by-week basis, this is how I think my timeline will play out. Week 1, I can see myself developing the show's concepts and the plot. Because I already have an idea, it probably won't take me an entire week to do that, but just for the sake of a proper timeline. For week 2, we'll probably dedicate it towards character development. At the moment, I only have about 1 main character and 2 semi-main characters / side characters in mind that I really have to do heavy development on. For week 3, will be dedicated towards character design. I'm separating the character development and the character designs into 2 separate weeks, so then I really have as much time as I feel like I need to perfect their personalities and how I want them to be portrayed, as well as how I expect them to dress and look. In week 4, I will be developing the show's title as well as making the PowerPoint. Now, I know me, so I'll probably be making the PowerPoint since week 1, but just again for the sake of a written out timeline. And then week 5, I will probably just be doing some slight cleanup. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my Module 6 design brief. I hope I was articulate enough, and I hope I am able to put all of my ideas into a cohesive PowerPoint.